Welcome to Is Franchising Right for You? With your host, Rick Morgin. Through each episode, we'll demystify preconceived notions about franchising, both entrepreneurs franchising and those buying a franchise. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Now here's the host of Is Franchising Right for You? Rick Morgin.
Good afternoon, Randy. I just got to say it's an honor and a privilege to have you as a guest on my podcast. I do want to just mention that started this podcast series in the middle of November. It was something different out of the box for me because I feel, if you got to grow, you got to kind of change the paradigm sometimes. And it's not unusual for me to go to the gym, but I did go to the gym this morning. Good because it's unusual for me to do multiple podcasts in a single day. I usually do once a week. So you're the second one, had to clear my head, be fresh and ready to chat with you.
Well, hopefully the other one warmed you up for me. So I'm happy to be here with you.
We met, 7-8 months ago in June. And, I learned that this is actually your second foray into franchising as a founder and CEO of a mobile fitness concept. I won't say outdoor because being mobile, you certainly that your trainer certainly could conduct a class indoors, and just people learn about franchising through stories. You've got a story to tell from your military career, developing your first franchise, leaving, coming back, and then developing a second. So from there, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, so technically my first venture, my first grand adventure was, the better part of 15 years as a Navy SEAL officer. And during that time frame, about the first half of it was kind of spent between a couple of different, SEAL assignments, one at SEAL Team 1, where I was there for about 4 years. And then I went to grad school. But after that, I went to the Special Missions Unit, the counter-terror unit that is now all too famous. And I spent, about 7 years there. During that time, I came up with this crazy concept for this strap, right? This strap that, originally was the first one was on a counter piracy op, and I had accidentally deployed with my jiu-jitsu belt, and I had some spare nylon in a box, and I ended up coming up with this crazy idea for a harness that I could attach to a door or anything else, lean back and lift my body against gravity. And that turned out to have some pretty long legs because it became popular with the guys in the squadron first. And then after I retired from service and went to business school at Stanford, I decided, well, what the hell? Let me see if I can give this crazy strap startup, a go. And that became TRX Training, which, is one of a handful of global brands that reaches around the globe, and became a pretty good business. And I sold control of that business to some private equity guys back in 2018, early 2019. Stuck around as CEO through the end of the pandemic, when we had our biggest year ever, did almost 90 million revenue and about 21 million in EBITDA. And at that point, whole separate story about working with private equity. I made the decision to leave and start Outfit, which is an outdoor mobile fitness service that is organized to scale as a franchise. My first business, TRX, was technically not a franchise. We have a big education business that has some franchise-like characteristics to it, but this is my first formal franchise, and it's really a spin out of TRX. It takes all of the equipment and I'm still the chairman because I ended up coming back with another partner and buying TRX back. And that's, again, a story for, over beers. But what I did was I had been looking at a long time at this opportunity for a business that is both affordable and that has high revenue potential and low expenses, that could, offer opportunities for business ownership in the outdoor space, and would use outdoor public spaces like parks and parking lots and church parking lots, things that exist, cul-de-sacs in neighborhoods, to deliver great outdoor group fitness. And so I looked at it for years and years and years while I was at TRX, and finally decided, well, somebody's going to go after this, so why not me? And we launched back in early 2021. We got rolling.
Oh, that's great. It sounds like there are some lessons learned from the development of the business of TRX, whether it was a franchise or not, that you brought into outfit training, this outdoor fitness mobile concept. What were some of those lessons learned?
Yeah, well, I've always been kind of passionate about, I've got my dad was like the original MacGyver. He could fix anything. And I've grown up with this sort of interesting fascination with, if you see a problem that's kind of broadly held and you come up with an interesting, clever solution, that's always turned me on. And for the, 16, 17 years that I was running and building TRX as a CEO, I mentioned our education business. Well, that was train the trainers. So it's train coaches, train trainers in how to utilize functional training tools and techniques to deliver great results for their athletes, their clients. Well, I got to watch, we certified over, almost 350,000 training pros around the world. And I saw this repeated need for a business that trainers could afford to get into, but that they could actually own and build, some net worth for themselves and their families, because a lot of trainers have great talent, great ambition, but they're not deep in cash generally. And, the trainers tend to leave the industry within 10 years because they just can't generate enough income. And that's kind of one of the dirty little secrets of the fitness industry, is it's a very much a young person's game, even though people would love to stick around. And the older you are, the better you get as a practitioner, right? And it's true of anything. So I started looking at that as my original problem that I wanted to solve, was like, how could I create a business ownership opportunity that someone who is not coming in rich can afford to buy into, but that has real revenue potential, right? And low operating expenses, so that the risk as you're starting it is reduced. How could I do that? And I looked at the brick and mortar. So this gets to specifically your question. A lot of trainers make this decision to go start a brick and mortar facility. And man, that's a hard thing to do. It takes a lot of capital. If you get even a little bit wrong, right, in location, you're toast. And I watched over and over and over trainers, leave working at a club, or if they had been doing kind of private training at home, and they'd take their life savings, and they'd get a couple of clients to invest in them, and they take this big slug of $500,000 or more and put it into this brick and mortar facility. And very often it ended up being the kiss of death, right? And so my interest was, well, wait a minute. I see this outdoor fitness opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I know that a van, right, costs a heck of a lot less than kitting out a brick and mortar. What if I was to take the risk on building the technology that's required to coordinate these vans? Because our tech at Outfit is very much like Uber, right? Mm-hmm. It's putting a group of people and a coach with a van in a certain place at a certain time and having a great outdoor exercise experience together. But the tech is what enables that. And no small business operator would ever invest the kind of money that I've invested in technology. We're almost $3 million into our tech. But if I built it with my investors and then, can essentially loan it, lease it to my partners, i.e. franchisees, then it all works. And so that was kind of the big idea. I learned that, taking too big a risk as an undercapitalized entrepreneur, like a trainer or a veteran or somebody who's just thinking about opening a small family business, you spend too much money up front and you get it even a little wrong, you're dead. And I wanted to try to solve that. So that's what we set out to do.
So you're creating opportunities for entrepreneurs in the fitness industry to continue their fitness training career, but when it's maybe time to stop, they've got a business. They've got a business that they've developed. And you think about the brick and mortar. Yeah, brick and mortar fitness, there's a lot of success stories, but it's also a marketing juggernaut, sales and marketing juggernaut that you got to have the capital behind that to reach an audience, generate those leads and drive memberships. And maybe that's the piece that's missing with a brick and mortar that adds expense to open but even with Outfit and its mobile platform, they've still got to market the business, be able to find the locations, drive customer interest, drive trial, and have repeat customers and continue that throughout their particular territory. Do you help them understand how to market? Maybe that's not a skill that all these entrepreneurs that you're creating understand right away.
Yeah, well, we certainly do, but and I'll tell you about that. But there's another interesting difference, right? When you think about a brick and mortar, and look, I love brick and mortar fitness operators with my TRX hat on, which I'm, as I mentioned, I'm still chairman of TRX. Of course, those guys are my longtime, industry partners. I do think that brick and mortar tends to be more of the sport of kings, as you mentioned. Like you need to come in with capital. So there's a lot of private equity owned, conglomerates in brick and mortar fitness. There's some, great big franchisors out there like Exponential, a good friend of mine, Anthony Geisler. And I think that, there's lots of great businesses out there. I want to be an opportunity that's a step below that in terms of cost of entry, right? And I also want to be below that. You talk about marketing. Well, if you think about a brick and mortar facility, you put that in the ground, right? Generally, you draw a 5-mile, circle around it. And then you're drawing everyone from all corners of that, all parts of that circle into one location. That's a challenge that requires a fair bit of money. It requires, really skillful marketing and constant marketing, which is one of the built-in expenses of a brick and mortar fitness facility. Now, if you take Outfit, think about what we're doing. First of all, we have a super tricked out, customized, awesome looking van that guess what it is? It's a rolling billboard, right? That rolls down the road, and we pick what we call a training ground, just a location that's out in the neighborhoods. So you're not actually having to drive into a city center. We're coming out into the neighborhoods, right? To the schools, to the churches. If you're on the beach, to a beach parking lot. There's a lot of different opportunities, but there's parks. I mean, there are, something like 80,000 parks across the United States. So we're going out to the parks. We, as the franchisor, are not only helping our franchisee market their business, but well before that, we're helping them secure their training ground, get that permitted with the city or training grounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in some cases, one unit will service maybe 2 different locations. And then, yes, we are helping them market as we go forward in a couple of different ways. We're spending money above the funnel, building brand awareness. Mm-hmm. Then we also are allowing our franchisees to say, hey, I'd like to spend a little bit of money on digital marketing into my territory. We run that through our agency because digital marketing is kind of a black art, and people lose a lot of money trying to learn how to do that, trying to create creative. We're doing all of that. And then we're just saying to you, for instance, Rick, if you were my franchisee, hey, here's how much we're spending. If you'd like to add a little bit because you're launching, or you just want to do a promotion because it's the new year, you can spend a little more through us with our agency. So it's very efficient spend. We've done all of the creative. And then in addition to that, we're providing playbooks on what really drives this business. Isn't a lot of paid marketing. It's more, what I call boot leather marketing. It's being on the ground in your immediate hyper-local area, going to the farmers markets, doing the walkathons. It's kind of old school, small business, neighborhood promotions. And that doesn't really cost a lot. It just takes some feet and some initiative.
True. And you think about the person who experienced outfit training for the first time, went through an exhilarating workout, very happy, taking a selfie and blasting it out to the network, and think of hundreds and hundreds of people doing the same.
Correct.
That creates that boots on the ground type of marketing that the local franchisee can do. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think one of the advantages of an outfit is more capacity than a brick and mortar. And a brick and mortar is based on size and number of trainers and number of classes.
I think what I would say is that, because one thing that's been interesting for me that I didn't anticipate is we're getting a lot of interest from brick and mortar operators who are they're sort of out of capacity, right? And those are the fortunate ones. They've built the capacity, and now they're saying, well, how do I extend my business, right? How can I, without having to dislocate, go take on a much bigger brick and mortar facility and all the risk of that? Is there a way for me to add value onto my existing brick and mortar by adding an outdoor fitness component? So we have a co-branding scheme so that if you had, Rick Morgin's gym, you could have the outfit at Rick Morgin's is kind of the branding scheme, so that we tie it back to your business. But I wouldn't necessarily say that the van has more capacity per se, although in some cases it certainly does. Like if you run a personal training studio, well, you have no ability to do large group.
Right.
Outfit is primarily focused on large group classes on a subscription model, but we also offer personal training services to people's homes, businesses, sports teams, et cetera. So the nice thing about an outfit van is it has enough gear to train up to about 100 people at a time, which is a lot of gear. Really, most group fitness classes go between kind of 15 and 30 participants.
Yeah, right.
Obviously, personal training is, kind of 1 to 5 people.
Yeah.
And by the way, with outfit, we also let you bring, if you're a personal training client, you could always bring your wife or a buddy or whomever. You get 1 + 1 free of charge. So it's effectively half price for each of you. But we do have a large capacity. The only thing that's limiting outdoors is how you set up the cones, right? So our tech tells the operator, hey, you've got 20 people showing up. You set up the cones for 20 and you take out the right amount of gear for 20. If it's 10, the opposite. If it's 30. So it's pretty easy. Unlike a brick and mortar where you've got constraints, outfit really doesn't, up to about 100 people worth of gear. That's kind of where you run out of capacity on a single van.
100 people, that's significant. That's a big, I don't know of many large gyms, box gyms, boutique fitness that can handle 100 people for a single.
Yeah, well, and if we were if you had that happy, misfortune to be running into your capacity, what we would say is there's enough gear there, but if you're getting above 50 people per class, you probably need an assistant and coach. So you're probably adding an assistant coach, because that's just too many people to manage. But most of the outfit classes are pretty typical. They go between kind of 15 and 30, and that's easily manageable by one coach.
Just listening to you, chairman of TRX, you could have stepped back and not been as involved, as hands-on in developing outfit. What's driving you besides your mission to develop future entrepreneurs within this space? But there's got to be something else too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I really do mean it when I say I owe so much of my career to two cohorts. Trainers, right, is how I built TRX in partnership with trainers. And then, my vets, right, from my first half of my career. Like I was one. I came out of, the SEAL teams At 36, right, kind of midlife, I had a very privileged transition through Stanford Business School, but what I learned is it didn't really teach me much about running an actual small business. It would have equipped me to go to work for IBM, but it didn't really equip me to go start this little rab scrabble startup called TRX. And what I've come to realize is like, man, those are two groups of people, trainers and veterans, that have so many like wonderful talents, you know, they're really motivated people. They're very entrepreneurial. But the one thing that they both struggle with is capital, right? Like access to capital. And so I got very, very passionate, and I'm a diehard startup entrepreneur. I just love it. Right? I love the whole process of building something that wasn't there before that delivers a useful service or product, you know, to humanity. And I think health and fitness falls in that category, right? It's just an intrinsic good. I'm helping you, you know, through my business, I'm helping you live a better, more functional, longer, happier life. That's something that frankly is worth doing during my time on earth. And so I got, you know, I'm passionate about that. And when I struck upon this idea that like, man, there's a blue ocean opportunity out there that is not, I mean, there are so many brick and mortars. You can't walk a city block without tripping on 8 of them, right?
Right.
I didn't want to add another one, but out in the neighborhoods, in the parks, on the beaches, you know, like in the church parking lots, there's no fitness operator there. I mean, there's some mom and pops that are out there doing it.
Yeah.
There's no big, you know, success story out there. Why couldn't I do that? And if I do, then I'd be able to reach that many more of kind of my target audiences as franchise partners, which, you know, start with fit pros and veterans, but include other, you know, entrepreneurs that maybe want to have a family business, right? Where husband and wife want to build this business together. And I'm just passionate about entrepreneurship. So to me, that's why at my, you know, becoming a little gray in the beard and long in the tooth, I'm doing another startup.
Well, yeah, you've mentioned your target audience, and there may be potential candidates that just get it, right? They get your concept, and they see that in my town, my market, there's a need that I can fill, and I want to go after it. And so that's got to be part of the mix of your ideal target or ideal candidate.
It's somebody with a, you know, they obviously have to have an interest, ideally a passion for health and fitness, right? Because, you know, could you do this as a retired accountant who wanted to, you know, to build a nice 3-4 unit, you know, business in your hometown? Absolutely, you could, but you got to have somebody who's partnered with you. Either you have to be passionate about, you know, health and fitness, or you got to have somebody who is, because there's kind of two pieces to this business. One is the business side. The other is the training operations, the experience that the members, you know, ultimately get. And so, you know, you don't have to be a fitness pro to do that. We do all the training to equip someone. We show if somebody was a business, just wanted to run the business and wanted to hire trainers, we assist with that. We obviously have a pretty big network through TRX that helps with that, because it's in a big group of certified trainers around the country. But, you know, ideally it's someone that either comes from the fitness industry and wants to own their own show, or it's somebody who has a passion for fitness. Yeah. They've been a you know, a marketing exec at a big company, and they you know, either retire, get a severance, just decide to leave. They can put together a little bit of cash, because for us, you know, the pitch for us is that, you know, it's 3 months under 100,000 and you're in business, right? From the time that we sign someone to the time that unit is operating is about 3 months. And to get into this business, if you finance the, you know, the vehicle like we would recommend, you're in business for under $100,000, and that's pretty rare. I mean, there's not a lot of opportunities, certainly in the health and fitness space, to be into a business for anything close to that amount of money.
I don't think there is, not in my experience. You know, it's, you we've talked about it being affordable, and you mentioned under 100. The item 7 in the FDD cites a low of 94 and maybe a high of 200. Depends on whether.
Well, that's really the delta there is if you paid cash versus financing it, right?
Yeah.
Not leasing, but financing it, right? Because the vans are about, depending on the time of year, and to get the fully customized van rolling down the road, it's about 100,000 to 110, somewhere in there, right? And we have financing set up with our partners so that you put down 20% of that instead of stroking a check for the whole nut. I don't know anybody who buys assets by paying in full up front. Or, if they do, they're a lot richer than me.
And I do want to mention the under 100 up to 2, that includes the franchise fee.
Everything.
Yeah.
Includes all the gear, all the customization, all the training, everything.
That's an incredible opportunity for future entrepreneurs within your target. And I just wanted to ask you if there's anything else that we haven't covered. We kind of covered your ideal candidate, how you got into this.
A couple other unique qualities about Outfit is, I came from service, so I really wanted to give back. And one of the things we do that's kind of fun is we give free family memberships to the group classes to all municipal first responders in the cities we serve. So police, fire, EMT, and their families get free access to group membership. That does a whole bunch of really great things, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you think about being an operator, one, you're doing something that's intrinsically good for the people that take care of you in your neighborhoods. But it also, those guys and gals are very well networked. They talk a lot. They tend to be kind of opinion leaders, right? Certainly when you think of fitness, you generally think that first responders are fit folks. But it also really helps with not only permitting, but you have people who are looking after you because they know you and they're coming to train with you. So that's kind of a fun element of the business. And then the other is, coming from the military, we also give 25% discounts to our veterans, right, of both military and first responder on the IFF. So it's already very low. And if you're an active or a retired vet, you get an additional pretty significant discount to the IFF. So those are two things that I wanted to mention. And other than that, ideal candidate, other than I spoke to fit pros, I spoke to veterans. I really do believe that there's, this is a tailor-made opportunity for retiring pro athletes that are looking for opportunities. Instead of retiring from the NFL and buying a burger place, a fitness business, when you came up with a network of trainers all around you, pretty easy to plug into and run. And then just the husband and wife teams that have reached a point in their careers where they want to do something, that they can build as their business, has the flexibility, right, to manage a family around the business rather than having to sacrifice the family for a career. I think Outfit offers a really nice opportunity to do that at a very low risk because the buy-in is not going to break anybody's bank in the way that some of the alternatives would. And the operating expenses are so low that there's a lot of flexibility, right? If you want to optimize that van as fast as possible, okay, you're probably working harder and more. If you have a little more modest goals and you want to take some time growing that business, you could do that too. So it does, because of the low expense base, you're not under the pressure that you are in some other opportunities, right? Where it's like, get big fast or die. This isn't that. And it's the kind of business that you make one van successful, you add a second. You make that one successful, you add a third, right? It's not binary. It's not all or nothing. So I really think that, that what we're offering is a special and different opportunity. And, I hope that we can get the opportunity in front of as many people as possible.
I agree. I also see this as an opportunity for the franchise owner hitting your target market really to make an impact in their community. And that's got to be a desire of what they want to do to help community, help overall community health, and help people increase their longevity. I think that's going to be an intrinsic or altruistic value of that particular candidate, because they really can make an impact with their.
I think it's a great point that you make, because a lot of people end up doing a lot of things in life that provide an income, but they're certainly not necessarily adding, to humanity. They're not, this is an opportunity. Like, you can imagine a day in the life, you're out in the sunshine, right? Sometimes it's raining, but if it's, like we say, if it's raining, we're training. You're out in the outdoors. There's all kinds of research that's come out since COVID, right, about the value, both psychologically and physically, to being outdoors. And you're out there, you might start your morning with a group of your regulars that you're doing a big group class, getting their day going right, contributing to their health and wellness. Then, you go and do a personal training session or two. Then maybe you go and run a program for a kid's sports club or an after school program. And then you hand over to your assistant, who takes it into the evening and does a couple more classes, big group classes, again, touching the lives of people around you. And along the way, you see a couple of firefighters and policemen and, their families that are popping in. Like, that's a realistic day in the life. And, and if that sounds good to you, then you're probably somebody that should, reach out to us.
Yeah, should be an outfit training franchise owner. Can an outfit training franchise owner kind of become the training center and program center for high school athletics, maybe in off-season training?
Yeah, I should have probably told you, we kind of have three services that we offer. The one is the one I mentioned. We focus probably 80% of our energy on it. It's just large group fitness outdoors, right? Yeah. Smaller percentage of the business, maybe 5 to 10% personal training. And the reason that personal training is certainly a good use of an empty hour, but the challenges of one-on-one in any business, right, is it doesn't scale. And right. So that's why we have personal training as, it could be a bigger percentage of someone's mix if they happen to have a particular, maybe they live in a high net worth area where there's lots of people that want personal training. Okay, well, then you could do more. The challenge is still, though, that you only have so many hours in a day. And if you're one-on-one, then you're by definition not one-on-many. I like one-on-many. The third category is what we call custom, but it includes exactly the kinds of things you're talking about. It's like, hey, is there an opportunity with a local school that either doesn't have great capacity to their gym, or maybe doesn't have one at all, or it's being fully used by certain teams. That's how it was in my high school, right? If you weren't football, baseball, or basketball, you didn't get the gym. Well, that's an opportunity for an outfit operator to go over, and whether it's funded by the booster club, whether it's funded by, $5 per kid or $10 per kid per session, and you're running, a class for 30, 40 kids. Well, that's a pretty good training hour. Right. And so, yeah, it absolutely lends itself. And you could, as I mentioned, you could train up to 100. We've done some really interesting things in our corporate market in South Florida with, football programs, where during one of the interesting things in hot states is that having kids in pads in the heat of the day isn't always a great idea. So in the heat of the day, an outfit van can roll up. We've got an awning that rolls out as a shade station, ice cold coolers, and a fan that blows across the training area. And you can do, some really good high intensity interval training where the kids aren't in pads and helmets. They're in shorts and a t-shirt. And when they need to, they can run over under the awning, get some cold water, cool off, and then get back after it. So those kind of programs are absolutely part of our mix. And, you can't do it if you have a car with a couple of dumbbells in the back.
True. I have one last question now. I just wanted to clarify something in my mind. Maybe the audience is thinking about it. Within a single territory, the franchise owner can scale by adding more vans.
Yeah, that's correct. What we're doing, now, how long we will be able to be this generous with territories, I don't know. But, for the foreseeable future, given that we only started franchising, in the middle of 2023. So we're very new to it. But what I want to do is to, figure out, all right, well, how much capital do you want to put to work here? Do you want to start with one van, or do you want to start with one and put deposits down on the next two? And we'll draw, we'll use our demographic analysis. We'll pick the training grounds that you want to train at, because you're the local expert. We are the support crew. But if, let's say you said, well, I'd like to do 3, and I'd like to work on developing 3 over the first 5 years. What we're going to do is give you double that territory. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because if you're successful with 3, we know for sure you're going to want 4, then maybe 5, maybe even 6. And I don't want you to have to buy something somewhere else. I'd rather put a big enough circle around your territory that if you want to start with 3, we believe you're going to be successful. And when you are, either you or the person you sell that business to is going to want to add 3 more. So that's the operating hypothesis that we have with territory assignments is double what you need and what you tell us you want right up front. And with the idea that, when you're successful there, you won't need to have a new territory assigned. You just keep adding vans within your existing territory.
That's great to know. Well, I will do everything I can to promote this podcast, to spread the word, try to find you qualified franchise owners to become outfit training franchisees. And it's been an honor and a privilege to have you as a guest. I just want to thank you for your generous time.
Thank you, Rick, thank you so much for having me. I think this is a great idea. And, we'd love to do some stuff with you. I enjoy seeing you when we cross paths on the road, and I hope to see you again in person real soon. So thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
You've been tuning into Is Franchising Right for You? With your host, Rick Morgin. You can find more episodes on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.